Today, this one I think will hopefully help clear up this thing that maybe people didn't even know about cucumbers is there's two groups, cucumbers and melons grown as cucumbers. And we talked about this on a previous podcast interview that we did, and I'm not sure I totally still understand it. So I'm looking forward to getting this cleared up. But what is the difference here? And why does this category even exist? Why do you have cucumbers and why do you have melons grown as cucumbers? Why are they just not called melons?
There are cucumbers and cucumber melons. Cucumbers come from India, the cucumbers we know of, Cucumis sativus, and it basically means cucumbers that were grown just regular are the Cucumis sativus. I'm trying to think of the word. But in any case, those come from India. They've been grown for thousands of years over there. They have a lot of good qualities to them. But before in the West, when I say West, Africa, Middle East, Europe, before regular cucumbers came around, they were growing melons that came from Africa. And these melons, they weren't sweet. They were, I guess, savory melons, non-sweet melons. And they really liked the texture of these melons when they were picked immature before they started to seed. And so they would pick these immature as cucumbers. And they would look similar to the cucumbers we know, except for maybe they might be a little lighter, a little darker, just dependent upon the variety. They may have stripes, they may have different colorations. Some may be a little round, but they were a lot of them eaten immature as cucumbers. So Cucumis mellow, the variety that we know as melons, and it literally means Cucumis mellow literally means cucumber melon. They are very drought tolerant. So they're more tolerant to less water. Some are even dry cropped. They did a dry cropping trial of them up in Oregon this year, and they did really well. The Vegetable Variety Network, the Culinary Breeding Network, had a vegetable variety showcase in which they had a lot of cucumber melons that were grown without much water. They were dry farmed or dry cropped, so they're very drought tolerant. They love the heat. The hotter it is, the faster they grow, and the more they pump out the fruit. When stressed, they don't become bitter, but they may grow smaller fruit. The plants may grow slower. The fruit may be a little bit misshapen when the plant is stressed. The fruit is easy on the digestion. It's bitter free. Some of them, especially the striped carousel leccese or meloncella facciata, are like gourmet quality. When you pick them at the right size, they're just incredible. They have this thin, bitter-free skin, but all melons, I know people don't believe this, just about all melons have little hairs on them. Now, when you get a cantaloupe at the store or a honeydew or something like that, I'm not talking about watermelons, I'm talking about muskmelons. When they were small, they had lots of fuzz on them. Over time, that fuzz gets distributed further and further apart until by the time they get shipped to you, the fuzz is off. It rubbed off because they were just little tiny hairs, like peach fuzz, if you think about it that way, but easier to rub off. Those are called trichomes. Cucumbers grown as melons, they're generally have less diseases to them. Part of that is they're picked earlier than a lot of other cucumbers or melons because you're picking them immature as cucumbers. And because they're melons, the seed is actually relatively easy to process. So if you think of like a cantaloupe or honeydew, when you open it up, there's the seed. It doesn't have any kind of covering over it. It has the shell of the seed. But if you have a cantaloupe or honeydew and you open it up, if you take that seed out, you can plant it, it produces another plant. You don't have that seed coat like you do a regular, like a tomato. When you cut open a tomato, you see those little seeds and they've got that little gel coating. Melons don't have that. So they're a lot easier to process. You just rinse them out, make sure the pulp's out of there, and then you can get the seed. So if you're looking to save seed, they're a lot easier that way. Now, I'll talk about the benefits of regular cucumbers. Regular cucumbers, they're tolerant of cool, wet weather. When it got a little cooler, when the climate was a little cooler, they were really nice for those Northern European countries where previously a lot of those melons grown immatures, cucumbers, they do really well in that Mediterranean climate, but they wouldn't do very well up north. Whereas when they introduced the Cucumis sativus, all of a sudden you get something that does really well in the cooler, semi-wet conditions. They have this great storage ability, especially some of these old Indian varieties. They end up getting this becoming really hard, having this thick, dense flesh, and they can actually store. I think of them as a winter cucumber. You can literally store some of them for weeks, even months, without having a real decline in quality, just depending upon the variety. So they have this really good storage ability. Along with that, really good shipping ability. Um, One of the things about Cucumis sativus is that bitterness. They become bitter when they're stressed. When you eat them, they have this kind of sappy, tacky aftertaste. The ones we grow for shipping and that kind of thing, they have thick rinds. Some of the others don't. Some varieties tend to cause indigestion. Some people have problems with eating cucumbers, but they don't have problems with eating melon. So that's a bit of an issue for some people. They generally have a little more diseases because a lot of them are cultivated. And Cucumis sativus means cultivated cucumber is what it means. There, I remembered it. The seed requires a lot more work to process. That coating over the seed, if you open it up, um, open the fruit up, and you get the seed out, it has this coating around it. But you're going to have to ferment the seed to be able to have that coating break down. And then you can go back to trying to rinse off that gel coating and see if you can get that out so you can get some clean seed for saving seed for later. There's a number of other differences.
Do you think that cucumbers and cucumber melons as groups have distinctly different tastes?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so if you eat a melon grown as a cucumber, they'll be like, "Oh, this is like a melon, but like a cucumber. It's like a cucumber melon kind of thing." You get this kind of aftertaste that's a little bit sweet in your mouth. You're left with kind of this fresh taste. It's clean. There's no tackiness. There's no residue that's left in your mouth. Like with a regular cucumber, it leaves this tacky residue in your mouth. You don't get that with melons grown as cucumbers. I did talk to you earlier about there's some varieties that are truly more like bushes than of melons than of cucumbers. So they're almost more for the first crop, they're almost more like zucchini. So if you were to grow, for example, a dark cylindrical melon grown as a cucumber, you would think someone walking up to it would be like, "Oh, this is a zucchini, but it looks like a zucchini, but the flowers are different." Yeah, it looks just like a zucchini, other than the flowers are different. And if you were to taste it, it tastes like a cucumber. Yeah, so there are a number of differences between melons and cucumbers grown as melons. And they both have their benefits. If you want something that's going to last forever or something that ships well across the country or across the world, then you're looking at a Cucumis sativus. If you want something high quality that people fought over and the Israelites missed when they left Egypt and kings would have grown year round, you're looking at melons grown as cucumbers. That's where the real quality is of the flesh and just real high quality fruit.
So if you're somebody who doesn't like cucumbers, you might want to try cucumber melons.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. So yeah, I have this shirt that says dislike cucumbers, you should try some caracello. So caracello are one of the varieties of cucumbers that I grow in Italy. These are a variety that are grown specifically for the texture. And so you get this really crisp yet tender texture. It's just wonderful and kind of complex flavor that you don't get in a regular cucumber. But that being said, if someone were to hand me, let's say, a really good regular cucumber, let's say, I think my favorite regular as it goes with taste is green finger. Green finger is a kind of Bayat Alpha type variety, kind of Lebanese variety. That I would enjoy that one because it's got a really good texture and a pretty good taste. But that being said, I'd always pick a melon grown as a cucumber before that if it's picked just right. Yeah.
Is there a cucumber melon that is very close in terms of taste and texture to a regular cucumber? It might, if somebody wasn't super familiar, they might confuse the two. Just thinking, if you're in a hot climate, it sounds
Mhm.
like cucumber melons are the way to go
Yeah,
because they're going
yeah.
to produce better. But
Or in a very dry climate, yeah.
you want
Anything with drought or anything like that, yeah.
in your home grower, so you don't really care about storage and that type of thing. But say you just love traditional cucumbers and you like that flavor, but you want the growth attributes of a cucumber melon. Is there something that can skew that way?
Yeah, there are some varieties that are, yeah, I'll tell you one that like the dark Armenian or Tortolella Barise. It's dark and it's long and it looks like a cucumber, but it's a melon, and it doesn't have exactly the same taste as a regular cucumber. But if you were to give that to somebody, you'd ask, "What is this?" They'd say, "It's a cucumber." And if you were to cut it up, they'd be like, "Oh, this cucumber is really good." It's a melon.
Yeah, so it sounds like you're much more a fan. If you had to pick one, you'd go the cucumber melon route.
Yeah, yeah. And a lot of the reason it also is there. I've grown a lot of cucumbers sativas, not just for saving seed. They're a huge headache compared to cucumber melons, but also cucumber melons are really fun to grow. They're really fun. A lot of them, they're real quick and easy and fun, and they produce a whole bunch of fruit all at once. So it's just, or some like the striped Armenian or painted serpent, they produce fruit over a longer period of time. But you get things like you get record breaking weights and record breaking lengths, and you can get the tar cacati, which is grows can grow like several feet long, record breaking fruit, and you just get all this fun stuff that you don't get with regular cucumbers because you're dealing with something that's both a cucumber and a melon. Yeah.
I think it's cucumbers just have better marketing. They're better PR. It's funny because I've been into gardening, I've been in the plant space, and cucumber melons are these one of these things that it's just I've flown right past them, never heard about them. I don't think they're called out in too many seed catalogs as their own. Like they need their own category because if
Well,
they're,
Diego,
you know,
I'm gonna tell you this, okay? I have, I think on my website now, let's say I've grown about 3 to 4 dozen varieties of these, okay? Of those 3 or 4 dozen varieties, people probably know one or two from a farmer's market, either the light Armenian or the striped Armenian, more likely the light Armenian. Those people who've had the light Armenian probably are like, this is weird. It has a little bit of a weird texture, and the flavor is really good. And I like that it's not bitter free. And so that's their, and it's got a little bit of weird shape because it's got these kind of wrinkly skin. That's their exposure to melons grown as cucumbers. People have not had these high quality cylindrical varieties that are consistent, that have these beautiful colorings, these complex flavors, and this just delicious taste. They haven't been exposed to that. So if you haven't been exposed to something that's very marketable, then you're not even going to look for that. But if something's really marketable, then it will find its niche, and it will expand in the marketplace. So that's my hope. We'll see.
yeah, no, I hope so too. And I'm excited for we're recording this in November. Can't grow them for a while, but I'm excited to dip my toe into those waters because I think it's one of those things. And I'm just looking at some pictures and stuff while we're talking. It looks really interesting. And as a gardener, it was like, I don't know, it's one of those paradigm shifts. It's like, why
Yeah.
was I never taught this? Why did nobody talk about this? And I think, yeah, exaggerating here, but it's like the cucumber industry long ago said, we will market cucumber sativas and cucumber melons be damned. We will not push those at all.
Yeah.
And that's what you think of. I think if you tell 100 people, they can identify a cucumber. And if you show them a cucumber melon, they're going to say, either I don't know or a melon, they're not going to say cucumber.
Yeah, yeah. And outside of Italy, so this is what I'll say. A lot of these varieties, they've been historically grown for sustenance and for actual marketability. But outside of their region, not so much. And so a lot of times there'll be these regional varieties, these little varieties that are specific to a town. And what's interesting is the assumption is these aren't very high quality. And some that may be true. I have received some that I've actually improved, but a lot of them I've received, I'm like, in the thousands of years we've grown regular cucumbers, how come no one has figured out this? how is it possible that these little farmers in Italy could come up with something so good? But it just blows my brain. But that's just me. I'm known as a cucumber fanatic, but it's very specific to I want quality. I want people to have high quality. I want to give this to farmers so that they can outcompete the marketplace, so they can sell something at a premium, and so that they can support their family. I support people who grow for me, and I pay them way more than market rate because I want not only for these to expand, but also just those small farmers who grow these to do well. And these are made for those small farmers and small growers as well, not just in the backyard, but anyone who really wants to get a foothold in a niche market to be able to grow something high quality that is really going to help a lot of people. And you'll do well with, especially if you're in a climate that does these support. You don't want to, not a cold, wet climate, anything else. These should help your business and help you. So that's what I'm all about, is just helping people and also helping people connect with their past. I have a lot of Italians who come to me and they're like, I tried these when I was just a little kid and my grandma grew them, and I can't believe you have these. And I'm glad I can help you out.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I'm looking at the pictures. I'm thinking this is definitely going to be an education thing for anybody trying to sell these because some definitely look like cucumbers, some don't.
Yeah, some look
And
more like melons.
yeah, it could be like one of those things where it's like, oh, what are those? They're cucumbers. Oh, I hate cucumbers. These don't taste like cucumbers, or try that type of thing.
Yeah. So what I'll say, I was at the Vegetable Variety Showcase over in Portland, Oregon, and we were cutting up these melons grown as cucumbers, and people were just they were just astounded. They're like, "What is this? This is like a cucumber, but it's not." And I had to help them. I'm like, is it what a cucumber should be? They're like, yeah, it's what a cucumber should be. This is
Yeah.
this is what it should be, but it isn't. And Diego, this is part of the reason why when you go to the Seed Savers Exchange yearbook, why there's half a dozen pages on cucumbers and half the book is on tomatoes. People love tomatoes because they're good. People don't like cucumbers because they're not. That's
Right.
all there is
Right.
to say. I don't like regular cucumbers, but I love melons grown as cucumbers. Yeah.
Yeah. Cucumbers, there's a lot of, I don't want to say nobody, but most people aren't eating them straight. They're salt,
No,
pepper,
no.
something on them. They
Yeah.
pickle them, they hit them with
Yeah.
vinegar, where it sounds like the cucumber melons, that's more something
Yeah.
like
You,
that.
you,
Right.
yeah, you just want to put it in it like an apple. You put it in your lunchbox and eat it without, and be like, oh, this was good. And an hour later, you're like, oh, maybe I want another one of those. Or this is just the coolest thing. You take a bite of it from the garden and you're like, oh, this is really good. And then you like get into the house and you're like, wait, where was it? I just ate it.
Yeah. Can any of them be pickled for people that do like pickles? Would any of these work as a what Americans would call a pickle?
Now, honestly, when it comes to pickling, I like fresh eating, so I'm particular there. But you can pickle pig's feet, so you can pickle just about anything. But if you want something that's got a dense flesh and more hard, dense flesh and things like that, you're looking at the mezzolongos, the mezzolongo di Polignano and the mezzolongo di Bavise. Those do really well as picklers. I'm sure that there's some others that do. A lot of people like pickling Armenian cucumbers. I don't really care for it. Armenian cucumbers have very low water content when they're really young. A lot of people will pickle those or the ficus when they're young because they're more dry, especially the Armenians. When they get bigger, because the Armenians become hard, like carrots when they get bigger, and then they'll pickle that. I'm more the type where I like throughout the growth of the plant, I like it to have this nice, consistent texture where it's, yeah, I'm going to want it when it's this size. I'm going to want it when it's this size. So I have longer picker window of fresh picking. I like fresh cucumbers. So that's just the way it is.
Yeah, no, love the idea of this, and it's something people can dive into. Looking at your page here, cucumbershop.com, you probably have, I don't know, 20, 25 different types of cucumber melons that people can check out, all different shapes, sizes, colors. So if you've never grown these, load up. You could have a very fun summer trying them.
Yeah, and I will say this is it only grow and sell things that are I shouldn't say sell, offer. I'm not selling. People can choose what they want, but things that are open pollinated. So I don't have a market on it per se because if you want to grow it, if you want to save seeds, you're welcome to do so. Oh, here's another thing I want to say about cucumbers and melon. You can grow a cucumis sativus right next to cucumis melon. You can grow those right next to a Mexican sour gherkin, sandita, cucamelon, whatever you call those, mouse melon. And you can grow those right next to a African gherkin, which is Cucumis anguria. All four of those, you can grow one of each at the exact same time, and they won't cross at all. And you can grow a watermelon at the same time as all those, and it won't cross. But if you grow muskmelon right next to cucumber melon, they'll cross. If you grow regular cucumbers next to each other, they'll cross, which means you'll have a cross of the two varieties, whatever they are. Yeah.
Not a problem if you're not saving seed.
If you're not saving seed, yeah, like people come to me and they're like, "Oh, can I grow this and this together?" I'm like, "Are you saving seed?" They're like, "No." So yeah, there's no problem. And cucumbers, a lot of people worry about this as well as what happens if they cross pollinate. Will they taste any different? No, not within the first generation. They'll pretty much taste like they are.
All right, awesome. Amazing information in this one. Hopefully that clears up the whole cucumber versus cucumber melon conversation, and we'll get into more varieties in the next few episodes. So thanks for joining. All right,
Thanks, Diego.
there we go. Yeah, right on.